Okay, back in action. Or maybe not. Sí, es cafecito, mi amor. Es cafecito. Back in action. So, I want to talk about the surprising. ¿Qué pasó, mi amor? Al rato, mi amor. Al rato, déjame hacer este video. Déjame hacer este video. Okay. The surprising thing, I just told my father I was like on the phone ranting because I smoked a little bit of weed. ¿Qué pasó, mi amor? Sí, café es arriba. Ahorita te doy, mi amor. Ahorita te doy. Déjame hacer eso. Okay, sorry guys. Surprising fact that I, as a political scientist, at my late age of middle age, right, middle age, have to discover that my opinion on Russia was completely shit. All my life, we have been told that Russians were so inferior in the Second World War, and there were so many more Russians, and the Germans couldn't take the waves and the waves of waves, unarmed Russians running at them, so there were basically not enough bullets. That's all bullshit. I've been studying. I know a lot of people like, yeah, I watched a meme on YouTube and I'm a historian now. No, there's a YouTube channel from historians, okay, and I look at those, and those are well documented. There's many literature that's being used by the guys that are doing it, and you can check it out yourself. It's called TIK, T-I-K. Guy is a fucking genius. He basically studies everything from the Barbarossa, which is the attack on Russia in the Second World War by Germany, and he explains point by point by point. For example, that a lot of myths were wrong. Let's say, for example, the myth that Germans had the most superior blah 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 tanks and whatnot. First of all, most battles were not tank on tank. That's for example. Sí, mi amor, ahorita. Second of all, most tanks in Russia were equal or better, or just a little bit worse. So basically the same as German tanks. Well, yeah. The biggest problem was the organization in the Russian troops. That's it. The organizations. So, for example, tanks would drive 5 kilometers and they would break down, right? Or guns wouldn't work, etc., etc. So the products themselves, the design, was good or better than the German designs. The big problem was not that the Russians were dumb monkeys throwing stones. Tiraste al agua, pero no, mi amor, ay, no. But they had almost the same type of design or better. ¿Qué pasó? Ahorita, mi amor, déjame hacer esto. Okay, so the big myth that the Russians were stupid and had too many people, right? Wrong. In the beginning of the war, on the Eastern Front, there were more Germans attacking Russians than the other way around. Okay, in total, Russia had about 6 million troops, of which half of that was on the west side of Russia, so the east front of Germany, right? So there were more Germans in the beginning when they attacked than Russians. And most Russians, for a week, they didn't get an order to shoot back. They couldn't shoot back. So when Germany was apparently defeating Russia so easy and attacking like the great Germans, Russians actually didn't do anything. So like they destroyed like 5,000 airplanes. They were just sitting there in lines. They came with a Messerschmitt or whatever, and just bombed and shut down all the planes, or the tanks, or the troops didn't have anything to do. So that's why it was so easy for the great German, right? And they had more people in the beginning and during the war, equal amount of people fighting the Russians. So it was not like that, like portrayed in all of the movies. As a political scientist, even I always believed somehow that the winter destroyed the German. No, not at all. It was equal fucking people, or the Germans had more at the end of the war. Obviously, they had a little bit less, right? So that's another myth that died. Another myth is that the crazy Russians, they shot their own people during the war if you would retreat. That's bullshit. Like 95% of the people that got arrested for retreating illegally without an order, so panicking, they went off free. Nothing happened to them. Just 5% out of the 100% were severely punished, or 1% were killed. And that's it. Can you imagine the shit? Ahorita me voy a cargar. Can you imagine the fucking bullshit that has been fed to us? Another thing, in 44, when the great Americans came to free Western Europe and bring democracy and peace, blah, 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 the Germans had already lost the war. Most people in Normandy, in those bunkers from those movies, they were not even German. They were just like fucking conscripts from Italy or another country that they brought in. Ahorita, mi amor, espérate, déjame hacer este video. That they brought in to just like fucking guard the beaches. Do you think they had the best troops guarding the fucking beaches? No, obviously no. ¿Qué quieres, mi amor? Obviously not. So that's what happened. Normandy was heroically blah blah blah, and the Discovery Channel. ¿Qué cosa, mi amor? Ah, esta cosa, okay. Ya te doy. Tómalo. Aquí está. Okay, so Saving Private Ryan, the series by this fucking guy, what's it called, Stephen King or whatever, his series, Band of Brothers, and all this, all those video games and everything else about Russians is completely shit. And also the idea that they make every year, Normandy landing, the freedom of Europe. Let's have a 1 day of free day, right, to remember the fallen. Germany was lost and dead by the time the Americans arrived. They were just like kicking a dead cow. Like literally, they were just like shoveling it so the Russians wouldn't come and get into all of the countries. Now, that's very, very, like, if you really think about it, like, what? Yeah, but 1941, the Russians already started winning against the Germans really clearly. When they lost Stalingrad, the Germans, they had no more oil. And before that, they had no more oil almost to attack. It was kind of futile, the whole world, if you look at it that way. Anyway, so from 41, there's another 2.5 more years before Normandy. The 2.5 more years, about 2 million or 3 million Germans killed. Their best troops were dead, destroyed, right? And then they came in, did what, the Americans? Freed Europe from what? Like, what the fuck? Even the England, they never lost any troops. They never lost anything. They were just waiting there for 2 years, 2.5 years. Okay, the Russians are really, really, really near Germany border. Let's fucking invade. So now that the Russians are super weakened, everything is destroyed and everything else. Now, to another point, the last point of this fucking rant, communism doesn't work. It's such a stupid system. Oh my god, it's so dumb. Obviously it doesn't work. Bullshit. Another thing that as a political scientist, there's not one political scientist or historian that says the following argument. Now the argument is always, communism doesn't work. Look at the economy, how bad it was. Yeah, what happened during the build-up of the economy of communism? What happened? 20 million Russians died in a time where there were only like 60 or 70 or something like that. Can you imagine? Not only that, not only all of the generations of women and children and all the post-traumatic stress disorders and everything that it had to do like generations later, all of the factories, all of the infrastructure, everything was fucking destroyed. Completely and utterly, the whole country was completely and utterly destroyed in the First World War and the Second World War. Okay? Now imagine that, if that happened to America, or that happened to, for example, it happened in Germany. I hear you thinking already, oh, but Germany happened. Yeah, they got a lot of money from the US to make it bigger and better right after the war, to counter the Russians. Anyway, so that would be a non-argument. So, what happened is, your country gets destroyed. America didn't get destroyed. France didn't get destroyed. America just picked up all of the fucking scientists and all of the smart philosophers and everybody, all from the universities, and put them in the US. And everybody in Europe, like all the smart people and all the rich people, fled to the US. US is so great. US is so big. US is so strong. Bullshit. All the smart Europeans went there and made America what it is. And in the meantime, Russia got completely destroyed. So yeah, of course, communism doesn't work. Communism does work probably if you don't destroy it 2-3 times in a row and all of the population and the infrastructure and everything else. Can you imagine if that wouldn't have happened? The 20 million people wouldn't have died in Russia. Can you imagine where Russia would be in right now? Would it be in the same spot? I don't fucking think so. Maybe it wouldn't be in the sky with stars with diamonds, you know. Oh, it would have been the best thing ever. But it would be at least less worse than it is right now, right? Yes, I think so. And I think most of the... Aquí está mi pregunta. 100%, I'm a political scientist and a philosopher. 100% of all the literature that I've ever read never mentions the fact, while analyzing the economy or how Russia worked, never mentions the fact of... ¿Qué pasó, mi amor? Coche, sí, mi amor. Ahorita voy. Déjame hacer este video y ya. So never mentions the fact that this fucking happened. To not understand that, let's say somebody is already wet and... ¿Qué pasó, mi amor? Tómalo. A niño. Ahorita vamos a niño. Ahorita vamos. Never mention the fact and just focus on one little piece of the puzzle. Most of the political scientists, all of the political scientists, and all of the books in the US, for children books, all the movies, they're all wrong. Russia is the one who won the war, nobody else. Russia, okay? Now, so fuck partying Normandy, they should have a Stalingrad Day, not Stalin Day, Stalingrad Day. They should revise their opinion on communism and how it works, because if you destroy it a couple of times in a row, yeah, it's fucking hard to build up and look good and shiny and new. There's a saying, you know, every fucking pencil is very sharp if you don't use it. If you start using it, if you get a kid or 2 kids and they fucking stress you out, yeah, you can get cranky and you can get like, oh, negative, right? Ahorita, mi amor, ahorita, déjame. Right? It's the same with the country, with the system of communism. It's always being analyzed like, oh, it doesn't really work because look, there was famine. Oh, look, it didn't really work. The industrialization that caused so many people to suffer and die. Industrialization caused a lot of Oliver Twist, right? Ahorita, mi amor, déjame hacer este video, mi amor. Déjame hacer y voy. ¿Qué pasó? ¿Qué pasó? ¿Qué pasó? Ven aquí. So, you know, that's another argument. Industrialization. Yeah, the Russians had killed like 4 million Ukrainians while industrializing for 5 years, right? Yeah, sure. But you know how many fucking people died in industrialization in the West in the 200 years? Oliver Twist, ever heard of that one? You know, and all of the histories and everything about kids dying, women dying, pregnant women working, kids working when they were 8 or 9. Of course, everybody forgets that. Everybody doesn't understand that because they don't have an understanding of history. And if you understand history now, what I just told you, now you start to understand why Putin is fighting the West. Because the West, just like now, chose for Donald Trump. What the fuck? Before him was Obama, but before him, W. Bush. W. Bush is a hero, right? Freed fucking Afghanistan and Iraq. Wrong. 2 million citizens. 2 million. 2 million people died because of that fucking skirmish right there. And still, it's incredible how Putin is actually right, and the West is really wrong in so many ways. So, fuck you. So yeah, that's my rant of the morning. Take it easy, guys.